Welcome to Dealing with Negative Feedback on Social Media. I'm Ingrid Deon. And before we begin, I would like to thank the CBDC for inviting me to provide you with this training. I also want to acknowledge that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. And I want to acknowledge them as the past, present, and future caretakers of this land. Now, we're here to talk about one of my favorite topics. Over the past 6 years, I've been managing social media accounts for some really large companies. KitKat, Delicio, Gerber, Manulife Bank, and most recently, Kraft Dinner and Heinz Tomato Ketchup. But none of them really tested my customer service skills quite as much as one particular cannabis brand. Now, before we took over their social media accounts, one of the founders of the company was answering all of the comments and messages. It was a cesspool, but we took over the accounts and we managed to turn everything around. Now, how did we do that? Well, we did that by listening to customers, empathizing with them, and offering them solutions. And because of that experience, I've developed a gift, maybe just a passion for dealing with dissatisfied customers on social media. So no matter which social media platform you're using, you can turn your social media accounts to a place where people come for exceptional customer service. I'm going to take you through 9 tips that will help you mitigate dissatisfaction across all of your platforms. And these tips will not only help you keep customers happy, but they'll also increase your chances for future sales. And no matter how frustrating, difficult customers can be, with the right response strategy, you can turn angry, raving customers into loyal fans. So the first tip is monitor the conversation. You need to be checking your comments and messages regularly in order to be able to answer dissatisfied customers. You can't reply to the comments and messages that you can't see. So if you don't know who's saying what, you're going to struggle to respond to those difficult customers who are perhaps littering the internet with poor reviews of your product or service. And you should not only respond to your comments and messages that you're getting on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and wherever else. You should also look for mentions of your company on Twitter, read reviews, check forums. So you can look at sites like Yelp, TripAdvisor, Reddit, Google My Business, all of the different forums that exist out there. Tip number 2 is to act quickly. Time is of the essence when it comes to someone who is commenting about a complaint about your business on social media. The longer you wait, the angrier they get. And the more there is opportunity for that negative comment to damage your online reputation. So you have to strike a balance between taking your time to craft the perfect response to that complaint and also posting a quick response that addresses the issue in a timely way. My advice is to post some sort of holding message if you don't have an answer to that complaint right away. So maybe it's something like, "We're so sorry to hear about this," and then saying their name. "We're looking into it now and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks for your patience and we'll be in touch soon." A quick response shows your customer that they are the most important piece of your business. Because remember, you need your customers to survive. Like, they are the ones who are giving you money. So you have to show them how much you value their business. Tip number 3 is to post the facts. And I want to remind you to do this in a kind and empathetic way. So if someone's posting like blatantly incorrect information about your company, maybe they're saying, "I went to such and such a business and they don't have any of this product," but you actually have that product and you know that you had it on the day when they came in. You can politely correct them and point them to the source of truth. Maybe you have that product listed on your website, so you can post a link to the product on your website. That's the source of truth. And so use your website as a source of truth. You can also use news articles. So if someone's saying something inaccurate about your business and you were in the news about it, then maybe you post a link to the news article to back up that information. Maybe you're a company that does research and development, and there's been scientific papers that have been written about a certain something that people are saying is incorrect. Well, you can maybe point them to those scientific papers. You can also use testimonials and other things to back up factual information. And as I said, do this in a kind and empathetic way. Don't do a, well, actually, we do offer such and such a product. No, you say something like, we're so sorry that you couldn't find such and such a product, but we do have it available, and here's a link to our website where you can purchase it online, or you can come into our physical store and purchase it from us directly. Something like that. Just be kind, don't be snarky. I have an example here of a time when I was able to point people to a source of truth in an interaction on social media. So I was working with Manulife Bank, and this person said, when will Manulife Bank offer more than 0.9% in their so-called high interest savings account? People who understand money aren't stupid, 2% minimum to beat inflation or it's worthless. This came at a time, it was almost like it was set up perfectly for us because Manulife Bank was offering 2% interest rate on their high interest savings account. So I just posted a response that said, well, since you asked, with a link to the source of truth. So the source of truth was the link to the website that showed the 2% interest rate. And then the person responded with, this is what I love to see. Keep this rate above 2% and you'll attract many people to your bank. So that ended up really well. By pointing someone was saying something that was inaccurate. We pointed them to the source of truth and then, turned it right around. They were happy after that because we did offer exactly what they talked about that they wanted us to offer. Tip number 4 is to move the conversation to private. Now, customer complaints on social media can sometimes draw other complaints. It sort of acts like a snowball. So one person complains and then another person says, yeah, I had a horrible experience with that company also. And then it just sort of builds. So in order to hide a lot of that back and forth, I suggest moving the conversation to private. And that reduces the visibility of the complaint. So this is especially true on Twitter, where every time a company posts a response, everyone that follows that company could potentially see that complaint in their feed. It's not so much true on some of the other platforms like Facebook. If someone posts a negative comment and the company replies, it's not necessarily going to show up in everyone's newsfeed. The same goes for LinkedIn and Instagram. But on Twitter, it's a bit different. So the more back and forth you have publicly, the more people will see it. So it will draw extra attention. An analysis of Twitter complaints of hundreds of firms from 2014 to 2018 found that when there's a lot of public back and forth, it increases the visibility of complaints and therefore can reduce the perceived quality of a brand and also encourages others to complain as well, creating that negativity spiral or the snowball of complaints. One single public response is a much better way to go. So my suggestion is to post something like, we're so sorry to hear about this. Please send us a private message so we can gather some more information and we hope to hear from you soon. That way, all of the public back and forth is eliminated. You only have that initial complaint and first response, and then everything else is taken over to direct messages, DMs, or private messages. Tip number 5 is to hide, don't delete. And this is especially true for Facebook. So on Facebook, sometimes when you delete a comment, the commenter, this used to be the case at least, I'm not sure if it's changed, but the commenter would get a notification saying that their comment has been deleted. And I've got to say, if you're an angry customer and you've posted an angry complaint on a company's Facebook page, and then you get a notification saying that such and such a company has deleted your comment, that's one way to really rile someone up who's already riled up. There is an option on Facebook, and this option doesn't exist on any other platform. But on Facebook, you can hide a comment. And when you do that, the commenter can still see it. So they can go back to the scene of the crime, and they can still see their negative comment. However, the rest of the public can't see it. On other platforms, the only option is to delete a comment. But I want to really stress that I do not recommend hiding or deleting all negative comments. This is just for things that are exceptionally egregious, like hate speech, foul language, defamation, different things like that. So I recommend having a code of conduct for your social media that outlines what you do not tolerate. So I usually outline that, we don't tolerate foul language, we don't tolerate hate speech, we don't tolerate bullying, defamation or libel, like inappropriate pictures or things like that. A whole, slew of different things that we don't tolerate on our Facebook page. And if you have that written out, maybe have your legal team go through it and post it on your website so that if people are posting things that are especially egregious, you can direct them people towards that code of conduct or that social media policy and say, we don't tolerate this kind of speech, we don't tolerate this kind of language. Here's a link to our code of conduct. If we see you posting more of this type of content, we will consider blocking you. And it's sort of an insurance policy and gives people a chance to maybe like regroup and think about what they're posting without just blocking people willy-nilly. So that's what I recommend. I wish all of the different platforms had a hide button, but unfortunately it's just Facebook for now. Tip number 6 is to be empathetic. The only thing worse than ignoring a difficult customer on social media is to respond to their concerns with a copy and paste corporate response, something that's really robotic. I want you to show empathy. Write in a friendly tone, no matter how annoyed or frustrated you're feeling. You need to be human and tailor your response to that complaint. A lot of people just want to be acknowledged. Like they don't even really want anything. They just want to know that someone has seen their complaint and has acknowledged it and validated their feelings. You might want to also sign your name at the end of your response. Some companies do this. I don't generally do this, but I've seen it happen a lot. Either you just sign it at the very end of the response to sort of put that human touch to it, or you say it in your response. Something like, "Hi, Bob. This is Jane from the llama farm. I'm so sorry to hear that Lily the llama bit your son," or something like that. This humanizes your company. And you always want to put yourself in that customer's shoes and think about how you would want to be treated. Don't take it personally. Like, take a step out of the business owner's shoes and take a step into the customer's shoes. It can be really hard, especially when the business is your baby. But you really need to really visualize what the customer is feeling and how they want to be treated, how they want this issue to be resolved. Now, I have an example here of what not to do. This really puts the robot in robotic. It's from Bank of America, not one of my clients, thankfully. And you can see this is a snapshot of their Twitter feed, and every response is exactly the same to everyone. It's not very personal. It's not very human. It's really robotic. So avoid doing this. Like put tailor your responses to each individual complaint. Tip number 7 is to actually apologize. Don't say something like, "We're sorry, but," or "We're sorry you feel that way." That's not apologizing. You want to provide a simple, straightforward apology that shows that you care. Something like, "We're so sorry to hear that. We can completely understand how frustrating this must be." You want to really show that you care, that you value your customer, because again, they're the ones giving you money, they're the ones buying your things. So you really want to show them that you appreciate them, validate them, and you want to help resolve whatever issue it is that they're experiencing. And here's an example from one of my past clients. It's a case where someone had an issue with a product and thought that it had changed. And through replying to them and asking them some more questions, I figured out that the product that they thought had changed actually didn't have any change. So I could have responded and said something like, "Well, actually, the product hasn't changed. We're sorry you feel that way." But that's not how I responded. I then, because there hadn't been a formula change of the particular product that they were asking about, I suggested that maybe they had a bad batch. So if you feel that you had a bad batch, please don't hesitate to call our customer response team at such and such a number. And this is kind of a funny example because this was a client where we had to push all complaints to a phone number, to a customer response team at a call center. And I really fought to have the ability to resolve complaints in private messages, as I mentioned earlier, asking people to send you a private message so that you can resolve it in private. But this client wasn't able to do that, so we had to push them to the phone. And there's actually some studies that have been done, and when customers complain through a particular channel, like if they choose social media to complain, they really want that complaint resolved through social media. So it's really best if you can resolve it through, direct messages, through private messages, on social media, rather than pushing them to send us an email here or call us here or come into our store or something. Most people won't be willing to make the switch to phoning or emailing or physically coming in or filling out a form online. They want to do it right there on social media. So, best practices: if someone complains to you on social media, resolve it on social media. The same as if someone calls and complains, you want to resolve it on the phone. Or if they come into your brick and mortar store, you want to resolve that right there in person. Tip number 8 is don't take it personally. This one's hard. Like I said, when you're a business owner and the business is your baby, but you really have to try not to get emotional. You're not trying to win an argument here. And you need to see the complainant as an actual person, just as they need to see you as an actual person, not some robot, not some faceless, anonymous company. And when you throw that human element into the mix, then the difficult customer realizes that they're not talking to some big faceless corporation. They're screaming at a real human being. And it's the same for when you're dealing with a person. Think of them, they are an actual person. They're a customer. They're someone who has come to you before. They've given you money. They are a loyal customer and they're upset about something. So don't take it personally. Just try and resolve it in the most empathetic way possible. They're actually helping you become a better business by pointing out how you can improve. So appreciate that and value it and mitigate the issue as best as you can. Now, this is a great example, or maybe a terrible example, of a restaurant that totally took a complaint personally. It is bad. This was not one of my clients. I'm very happy to say that. They chastised the customer for complaining, and chastising customers for complaining about your business on social media doesn't help the customer, and it certainly doesn't help your business either. So, this owner definitely did not put herself in the customer's shoes. It really is something else. It's one of the worst responses that I have ever seen on social media. And for our final tip, number 9, just make it right. Sometimes it's not enough just to apologize. If you can offer something like a refund or deal with the issue on a deeper level, then you'll be able to win over your critics in no time. So sometimes people just want an apology. Sometimes they want a coupon. Sometimes they want a refund. And sometimes they might want a policy change. For instance, if they've complained about the fact that your restaurant has gendered washrooms, then maybe you want to make a policy change and make them both, just open to anyone. So sometimes, people don't necessarily want their money back, but sometimes they just want to affect change. And maybe that's an easy fix for you to do. And it really would delight the customer for you to make that change. Here's an example from one of my clients. So, little known fact perhaps, but Kit Kat makes I don't know how many waferless Kit Kats every day. And when I worked in customer service with Nestle, we responded to so many waferless Kit Kat complaints. And it all happens because in their factory, sometimes the wafer dispenser gets jammed and the chocolate will continue making Kit Kats without wafers. And then they notice it and they stop it, and a few, fly through the cracks, and you end up with waferless Kit Kats. So people complain about it all the time. This was on the website with the ratings and reviews. So people were filling out a form with a complaint, and so we had to direct them to emailing us. I think it's changed now, and they get directed to another form to enter in the product information so that they can get a refund. But we also did this on social media, where we would fulfill the refund through social media. So we would ask for the product information through private message. We'd say, "Oh no, what's a Kit Kat without a wafer? Please send us a private message so we can help you," or something. Because you don't want to say "so that we can send you a coupon," or so that we can send you a refund publicly, because that has a tendency of drawing couponers who will complain even if they've not received a waferless Kit Kat. So, we would just say, "so we can help you," or "so we can make it up to you," or something like that. And then people would send a private message, and we would gather the product information there, gather their personal information, like their mailing address, and issue the coupon that way. And that's it. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this training. I've really appreciated sharing with you all of the nuggets of advice that I've learned over the past 6 years dealing with dissatisfied customers on social media. I really hope that you don't deal with too many dissatisfied customers, but when you do, I hope these tips come in handy and help you out.